As you're listening, don't forget to check out the Professional Amateurs podcast on YouTube. And while you're there, hit like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Professional Amateurs podcast. This is a Mitchell-less podcast today because I guess he has better things to do. School, I guess. It's fine.
It's personal.
He's really dropping the ball on us here today. I didn't even have the link set up until 2 minutes before we got on, but it's fine. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing pretty good, just busy with thesis and grad school applications.
Yeah. Seems like it's a busy time for everyone right about now, just gearing up right before the end of the year for Christmas break and stuff like that. So we'll try to grind this one out here. Me and Mitchell were at the game last night. My voice is going downhill. So between Mitchell not being here and my voice being scrappy, it could be a tough one, but we'll
You just sound how I normally sound every day. Welcome to the club.
We'll power through. I guess we'll start with kind of the biggest stuff in the hockey world right now, which revolves around Canada, Ontario, which is the craziest thing. I never would have thought that that would be a real sentence. But Ryan Reynolds and his interest in buying the Ottawa Senators kind of came to a point last night where he actually made an appearance at the game against the Vancouver Canucks. What have you made of all this? First of all, just I don't think we've done a podcast at all since the Sens have officially gone up for sale. So what's your reaction to, first of all, them just officially being for sale and now all of the craziness that has come with Reynolds too?
I think them being for sale was kind of inevitable. Ever since Melnick passed away, I think that was it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. I don't know. For Ryan Reynolds, I don't know if you could pick, if you hand pick out of every celebrity in the world, I don't know if you could pick a better one for a Canadian hockey owner.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty ideal.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about too, because everyone obviously thinks about how he's an A-list celebrity and how much that'll bring to the brand, but also it could be a huge promotional tool for just the league in general, right?
If you think Deadpool 3 isn't going to have a Sens logo in there somewhere,
Yeah.
You're wrong. 100%.
All around the rink last night, there was, I guess somebody made a bunch of these papers that they were handing out. It's the Ottawa Sens, the O logo, but it was a Deadpool mask in the middle, and it was all color matched, and it was cool. It was just, you could feel the fan base is already embracing him, and it's just such an odd, it's an odd situation because the sale, it's in progress.
And it really only picked up. It wasn't like it was a rumor for a while. It picked up from a day, 4 days later after the first tweet, he was at a game.
Yeah, and it almost seems too coincidental, but it's crazy to think about how we've gotten to this point. Everything that the Sens have gone through with ownership in the past few years, and now this is the next step, which it looks like is
imagine if a couple of years ago, when Melnick was burning the franchise to the ground, if someone came to you from the future and was like, "Don't worry, Deadpool's going to buy the team. It's okay. You'll be okay."
Yeah, I think I literally tweeted out a few days ago. I think this was even before Ryan Reynolds came into the equation. It was just imagine the news of this team selling 2 to 3 years ago and the euphoria that would have brought the fan base. Now it just kind of feels meh. It had to be something that happens down the road here now. And now that Ryan Reynolds is in, it's taken over the complete fan base. It's all I see all over the place.
Even it's taken over the hockey world right now.
Yeah.
I saw tweets when it was rumored he was going to be at the game, but it wasn't confirmed. I saw tweets tracking flight pass where private jets had gone and shit like that.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just the one other thing. I don't have the name in front of me, but he did buy a soccer team, and it's a low level one, but they're doing good. Like it's
Yeah, so I think
not a publicity stunt. He's building up a soccer team.
yeah, so the first reaction I think a lot of people saw to this was like, oh, is it actually real? Because like a few months ago, or maybe it was a year ago or something like that, there like leaks came out that Justin Bieber kicked
Yeah, I
tires
remember that.
on buying the Ottawa Senators, right? So like first of all, it was how real is it? And then it very quickly became very, very real. And then you start putting the pieces together. It's like he did just buy a football club a few years ago, Wrexham FC there, and made a whole documentary series about it. I just started it last night. It's pretty interesting, but like he has experience now doing this kind of thing. Maybe not at this scale, but it's clearly something he's interested in going forward with. Like it's not just some famous guy who wants to own a team. Like he has passion for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other cool thing that happened last night that I don't think anyone was really expecting is that the Ottawa Senators announced that Chris Neal will have his number 25 retired. So I've seen a lot of reaction outside of Ottawa being why. And I totally understand that. But I think that here in Ottawa, we understand how much he means to the franchise, and maybe
It
even
honestly, it bugged me that his wasn't.
yeah,
Like with Alfie going up, which was obviously no brainer. Phillips should be up there. Neal should be up. Like it was
yeah,
always clear to me. Uh, I don't know. I guess you can make the argument like he was a grinder and enforcer, but
yeah.
he meant so much to the team, to the city.
Yeah, like
Um,
you see the comments everywhere. It's like, why are you retiring a fourth line grinder's number? But like
mhm.
he's so much more than that. He spent
Yeah,
over 1,000 games all with the Ottawa Senators. Like that's not something a lot of people do. So
especially with that play style, they normally you get passed around
yeah,
whoever needs
100%. Like
two fights.
this is a guy who had 100 career goals in over 1,000 games. Like he was not a points guy. He was known for the fighting. He was known for the big hits. So it's a different choice, but personally here in Ottawa, just like how much community means and how much he's still so much involved. Like he's very much in the day to day of this organization still. So I think it's very cool to see them honoring an alumni with that kind of distinction, especially when you're still trying to establish your history, right? It's only the third number retired.
Mhm. And it was kind of out of nowhere. Like it was just
Yeah.
like I don't know if maybe it just got buried under the Ryan Reynolds stuff, but it was just all of a sudden like, hey, we're doing this like in 2 months, by the way.
Yeah. Well, like how it was announced last night was they just threw a video up on the Jumbotron during a commercial break. Like nobody really knew what was going on, but it was
Mhm.
cool. Um, I don't know. It's very cool to see. I just wonder how this sets like precedent for them going forward. Like, does anybody that makes it to 1,000 games for this franchise get
It's
up
an
there now?
interesting conversation. I think like if you look at the original six teams, they used to play like 40 games a year.
Yeah.
Obviously, standards change throughout time. As you build
Mhm.
up history, standards change. And maybe it's a little bit different because Ottawa is young compared to a lot of the other teams
Mhm.
who are kind of further ahead in their standards.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with it going up, especially knowing like the type of person he was. Like
Mhm.
ran into him a few times, stuff like
Yeah.
he would just be like, I had a camp at the Sensplex and he was training there.
Yeah. Like when I think it does make a lot of sense when you say like he should be up there with those other two because when you think of iconic Ottawa Senators figures, it's those
Mhm.
three. Like it's always those three. So good for Chris Neal getting up there. And I think that everyone outside of Ottawa just needs to take a deeper look at it a little bit before criticizing it a little bit too much.
And I think really until really Melnick died, like Ottawa wasn't in the news.
Hmm.
All of a sudden the team is like moving forward. Now they've got Ryan Reynolds involved. Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden the spotlight's here for the last couple months. They don't know what happened the last
Yeah.
15 years, 20 years.
Yeah. And it's like we haven't even touched on the on ice product yet. Right now it's serving as a great distraction from the
From Zaitsev specifically.
the Zaitsev show that is going on, but we don't have to talk about that. If you got nothing
Ready
else,
for DJ Smith to die on that hill.
he really is just gonna die on it.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own, whatever, man.
I could literally spend forever on this, but I don't want to get going on it. If you have no more on Neal, we can move on.
I don't know. I have one specific Neal story I remember. I don't know what the situation was, but Chara was with the Bruins and he did something, and Neal had to stand up and fight him.
Oh yeah,
Like 6'9" Chara, and of course they used to play together.
yeah,
And Chara could have just absolutely demolished him. Like Neal was a big guy, but he wasn't tall. Like the reach
hmm
advantage alone, he was going to lose that fight.
yeah,
And they kind of just like wrestled a little bit, let the crowd get fired up. And
hmm
then at the end of the fight, like Neal like gave him a pat on the back to say like thank you for doing that. Like
yeah, yeah. He's such a one thing that people, especially in Ottawa, always come back to too is sure he was a grinder, but like he was never a dirty player.
no.
He was never suspended. He always knew where the line was, and that like being able to play that
And
type
he
of
grew
game.
with it as it changed.
Yeah,
Because when he started, you could get away with shit you can't get away with when he
yeah,
finished.
100%. And just you bringing up that story, I guess I'll mention one more. Like I against the Bruins too. The biggest hit I think I've ever seen on live TV was his hit against Zach Boychuk. I forget what year it was, but man, that hit was thunderous. My dad was in the crowd for that one, and he still talks about it to this day, as like one of the craziest things he's seen live. So, an absolute legend in Ottawa. Good for Chris Neal. But we can move on to another favorite team of the pod, the Montreal Canadiens, and their their number one overall boy here. He's
Maybe
got a
sit in a
couple
couple of
different
games.
he's got a couple different storylines following him now.
Well,
Um,
maybe he just bought us some time to decide if he's playing number 10 because he's going to be missing a couple.
well, I thought last night was 10, no?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. It was.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah, so let's just start with maybe what you've seen or what you've heard about his game, and maybe a little bit behind their decision about to keep him up, and then we can get into the hearing as well.
I talked about it a little bit in our group chat, the decision to keep him up. I think Montreal is a team right now. It doesn't matter if you burn a year. We're
Mhm.
not in a cap crunch. We have in a few years, the price contract's going to come up. Like, it's really not about burning a year. It doesn't matter. It's just about experience.
Yeah.
Um, if you were, say, Toronto and they had a rookie who was on the fringe, they need that extra year at 925 because they can't afford to go up, but it's really not an issue.
Sure.
So I think it was probably, even if he did get sent down, like he would have came back up and burned the year. It was just kind of a matter of
Mhm.
when. Um, he's
Do
shown
you
some flashes to look good, but I think the hit he's going to get suspended for now kind of highlights the fact that he's always been the big guy. He doesn't know how to play like a regular role.
yeah, and like I haven't been paying too much attention to him, just outside of what I've been following in Ottawa for the most part, but we've seen a lot of criticism with the usage of Shane Wright in Seattle. Um, what's his usage been like, and do you think it's a good development path to keep him where he is right
I
now?
would like to see him get a little bit more. Um, I think he's around 12 minutes a night right now, but
Mhm.
and they started him not on the power play, and St. Louis said like that's something you have to earn. We're not going to give that to you based off your draft pedigree, which I'm all for.
Mhm.
And he has recently got some power play time. Like they're really just making him earn it, which I think is a good thing.
Mhm.
Um, I would like to see him get more minutes. Like I would put him at 15 no matter what happens, type of thing.
Mhm.
But with such a young team and the vibes being so positive, I like the idea of making everyone earn it. Like everyone's on the same level. You earn your ice if you were first overall, if you were undrafted. Like
Mhm.
you just got to earn it. And I think that's a good mentality for a core.
Yeah, like touch on that a little bit more too, just like the overall vibes of Montreal, because we knew this wasn't necessarily going to be a good team, like a playoff team, obviously, but they seem to have a lot going on for them in how they're gelling right now, anyways. Specifically with Suzuki and Slafkovsky and Caulfield, right? Caulfield's having a great start to the season, so maybe just like a
Doc's
little bit
doing
how the
good
vibe's
too.
going in Montreal.
It's a fun time. It's the type of time right now where you want to see them play like this and then lose with a minute left. Like have
Yeah,
a good 59 minutes, but don't
yeah,
get those 2 points.
yeah.
They're pulling out wins, which obviously you never ask someone to lose. They're professional athletes; they want to win. Uh, I think the draft pick's going to be a little bit lower than I would have preferred, but this is a deep draft, so I'm not too worried about it.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, like the vibes are good. Everyone's having a fun time. It's really a lot of young guys, probably 10 guys in that range of under 25, where they're all just growing up, learning together. It's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, you guys aren't gonna get Bedard because he's coming to Ottawa.
St. Louis.
Oh yeah, St. Louis, God.
But no, just to wrap up on the hit, I
Yeah.
say 3 games for that. That was ridiculous.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
bad
I don't
look.
know.
And
When
we
you reach Pee Wee, you have to go through like body check training. You have to
mhm.
learn how to hit safely. It looks like he's never had that.
Yeah,
Like straight up, like it looks like he was just the big kid. And the same thing with that preseason play where he cut across the middle and stood a guy up.
yeah,
If you're 5'10", you're out cold from that, from a
yeah,
Scott Stevens on Paul Korea
yeah,
type thing. Like
yeah.
you die from that if you're not 6'3", 240.
And
So I
we
think he's always been the big kid and no one ever taught him, like, when you get to
mhm.
the pros, you're not the big kid anymore. You need to play properly.
Yeah, and we've often seen the NHL to react heavily to plays similar to this that have bad consequences on players as well too, right? And the Red Wings announced today that Matt Luff, the recipient of the hit, is going to be out 10 to 12 weeks. Is do you think 3 games still considering that time frame?
I think 3 games, it's a gray area considering injuries because someone can get hurt on a clean play.
Yeah,
Like Evander Kane last night, fluke incident, gets his
yeah,
wrist slit open. Does Pat Maroon deserve to sit for that? Like, of course not. So I think it's a gray area when you bring injuries into that. And like you can do something incredibly dirty and the guy's fine.
hmm.
So then do you not get punished? It complicates things.
And at the
Um,
end of the day, player safety in the NHL is complete toss up. So we really don't.
yeah, like who
We can
knows what
sit
they're
here all day
thinking.
and guess, but yeah.
I'm gonna say 3 because I think it was worse than the Anderson one, and he got 2.
Hmm.
Obviously, being the first overall pick in Montreal, the NHL is not going to use you to set an example.
Yeah, 100%.
Everyone always likes to think like this one's going to be the example setter. He's going to get 20 games and no one's ever going to do it again. If they ever do that, it's not going to be on a first overall pick.
Hmm. 100%. All right. Now we'll switch into a little bit less positive topic here now, with some just absolutely shocking news that came over the weekend and early into this week here with the Boston Bruins signing Mitchell Miller to a contract and then quickly releasing him slash not releasing
I
him.
don't know if you saw the most recent thing I shared,
Yeah,
but legally they're going to have to still pay him, I think, which is absurd.
yeah. I was listening to the local TSN radio here this morning too, and like they were talking about all the ramifications. Like if the contract was actually signed, which it appears that it was, there's gonna have to be some sort of settlement procedure carried out through this.
And I believe too the NHLPA, since he signed an NHL contract, is
Yeah,
required to represent him and defend him.
yeah. Like it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out just from that standpoint because the NHLPA will want to stop a precedent being set for players or for teams just wanting to,
Get out of
yeah,
contracts.
to get out of contracts for where's the line. Obviously, this one is worth it, but um, we're probably going to see some pushback there. And will the player still fight for the contract? I don't know. So
I mean, he didn't apologize until he got the contract.
yeah,
Like, I don't think he's a change person. I think he's a piece of shit, and he's going to try and get his money out of this.
yeah, we yeah, we can talk about that aspect right now. Like what what were Sweeney and Neely thinking, man?
I
Every
don't get it. And from what I would consider, like I don't like Boston being a Montreal fan, but they're probably like one of the premier
Mhm.
in terms of winning over like since we've been alive, being competitive, being classy. Like
Yeah.
to just do that, I don't get it.
And we rarely see a decision um in the hockey world that has such a unified response, right?
Mhm.
Like I didn't really see anybody trying to be on his side, like give him. Well,
Oh,
there was a few people that were like, "Oh, he was 14, give him another chance," but like that was
I
a small
the
minority.
only people I see saying that are like anonymous accounts.
Yeah,
I don't think it's legit. And honestly, like, yeah, kids do dumb shit. I
but
don't know any kids that ever did that dumb of shit. Like that's
yeah, and
that's next level.
the biggest part to point out there too is like, sure, you can make stupid mistakes like once as a child. This was years of just horrific torture, essentially. Like if you
Literally,
actually
it
read
wasn't bullying. It was
yeah,
like assault.
if you read the details and the statement that he put out today, he put one out through the HDA. Um, it's just horrific to read, and you can't really wrap your head around why um, anyone would want to bring that into their organization, especially when it was already a focal point in the NHL when the Arizona
Yeah.
Coyotes had to rescind his draft rights. Like, I just don't see where they would have thought this was a necessary move at all, especially when they're off to like one of the best starts in franchise history. It's
And they're
crazy.
getting healthy.
Yeah.
Like they really just don't need that right now.
Yeah. And like the
Um,
one of the biggest things too for me was the players outwardly speaking about how they hated the decision. Like,
yeah, and like obviously it's different times,
mhm,
different cultures, but like when the Kyle Beach stuff happened, players didn't say shit.
yeah.
So the fact that like players were saying stuff about this
Yeah, they were
shows.
pissed.
And like shout out, if I don't know if we're doing our players of the week, but to
Yeah.
Bergeron, Nick Foligno coming out and
Yeah.
saying that, like I don't know, man. I got tons of respect for them for doing it, but I clean house with that management. I don't care that they're cup contenders.
Yeah, you just read the impact from that statement today, and like that should be enough to have you second guessing whether these people should be fit to run an organization if they think they can bring someone like that in without doing the due diligence at all. Like their reason for letting him go was due to new information that
Yeah,
was
the new
all a Google.
information was people noticed.
It was all a Google away for months, all of
Yeah.
this information.
What was it? I think the Arizona was like 2 years ago now
Yeah.
that they actually drafted him. Like it all came out then. This isn't
Like
new
they
stuff.
said they didn't know it wasn't just one incident. Like, come
And
on.
even before they released them, when they were facing all the heat, somebody asked Sweeney, like, if it was your kid being bullied like this, would you have
Yeah,
forgiven them? And he said no. So it's like, why are you
yeah.
giving someone else? If you admit you don't think you would forgive someone doing that to your kid, what makes it okay for someone else's kid?
Another quote that got me that was like they just don't get it was when one of the media asked that was like, well, would he still be a part of your organization if the backlash wasn't so significant? And I think it was Sweeney that was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, like it's
It's like, I don't know. It blows
like
my mind.
hockey culture is in a bad place right now.
Yeah, there's a new
And
story every week that just hurts your soul.
and honestly though, like I don't want to say this is the worst one, but this one was just like as a human being, how do you
Yeah.
like they're all bad, but like I don't know. This came out 2 years ago and you thought it's okay now. Like
Yeah. And like it'll probably be forgotten about in 2 weeks, and
still something else will come out.
Sweeney and Neely will just go on.
They'll get their names on the cup or some shit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Boston will win a cup this year, and
it'll
it'll
all be
be on.
okay. Winning fixes everything.
Brutal. Um, yeah, I don't I don't know. I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but do you have anything else on it?
I don't know. Like I honestly, it's probably a good thing we didn't talk of like have a pod the day it happened because it's fucking disgusting. It's absurd, and I could talk about it all day and
Mhm. Yeah,
use all these different
I
words that
encourage
all mean the same thing.
yeah, just to end off this topic, I encourage everyone to go read the statement made by the victim that was put out by the HDA. It just gives a ton of context behind why people are very upset about this, and rightfully so. So definitely go check that out. Maybe we can end off here with a fun one. McDavid hit 500 games played. And I don't know about you, but that just seems ridiculous to me.
It really does, especially when you consider like he broke his collarbone and missed time.
Yeah.
He'd be closer to like 600 by now if he played every game. Like that's absurd.
Yeah. Like I'm pulling up his stats here now, but he's got okay. He's got 253 goals, 473 assists for 726 points in 501 games played. It's unreal. And what we're seeing him do this season too is almost a new level. Like, do you think he's going for the Rocket?
I think he's got it. And some of the goal, like he just decides, like I'm gonna score. No one's stopping me.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
he plays like he's the kid that dropped down from double A to house just to
mhm.
dominate.
Yeah, he like that one goal the other night. Like we've seen him just do ridiculous dekes and skillful plays, but there was one goal the other night where he literally just powered through like three sticks on his way to the net
Just effortless.
and then pulled off a deke. It was it's just crazy. Like you look at this guy and he doesn't really look like a strong man, but then he just goes and absolutely he just can walk through a full team. It's crazy. Like he's already got 14 goals this year.
And honestly, like it's crazy because I've like been hearing about him since what he was 14, 15.
Yeah.
And he's now 500 games deep in the NHL. Like
Hmm. Yeah,
that
that
aspect alone is insane.
that like that was the whole point of why I wanted to bring this up, because like it really does seem crazy. Like we grew up kind of seeing the start of Crosby and Ovechkin's careers, and now they're at the tail end of it, and this is kind of the next generation of generational player, and he's already like halfway through his, well, not halfway probably, um like fifth, like I don't know, like halfway through a career, or a third away the career is just crazy. I don't know. My
And
my
Bedard's
brain
already
broke there for a
reloading
minute.
his
I lost all the words, so take it away from me, please.
Connor Bedard's already lining it up to start the next.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It'll
don't
be
know, man.
interesting to see who he actually ends up going to, because the standings have been a goddamn shit show to start the year.
Yeah, it's gonna be like it's gonna be something ridiculous, like a team that just had it down here, like
Mm.
Tampa is gonna tank.
Like, let's go look at the bottom right now. Obviously, there's the Blue Jackets. They suck. The Blues are interesting, losing eight straight. Um, and then there's Ottawa. And then San Jose or Anaheim would be interesting, seeing him out in California. Imagine him with Zegras.
That would be nasty.
That would be insane. Um, yeah, unless you have anything else for this pod, maybe
Yeah,
we
I got a good hypothetical that we got to
okay.
put our bets in now before Vegas sets the odds.
Okay, let's hear it.
How many Senators players have cameos in Deadpool 3?
At least I would put it at 2.5.
Brady Kachuk is in that movie.
Yeah, 100%. He'll be Will Ferrell's stunt double somehow, or they'll be play twins somehow.
I'm stupid. I don't know, man. It's gonna be a fun time. I think.
And like Tim Stutzla will be the evil villain or something.
He'll be like the vaguely European accented
Yeah,
villain.
yeah. Oh, it's just hilarious. Did you have a player of the week, or was it just kind of related to the Boston stuff?
If I did, I would just give it to the Boston boys for that.
Yeah.
That was good shit.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to round this out. Um we'll just give it to Bergeron and Foligno for stepping up and actually being a good voice in that room and telling management that they can suck it.
Yeah,
Um
like
Yeah, but if you don't have anything else for this pod, we'll keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, I'm good to wrap her up.
Yeah, lacking Mitchell, I think we did sufficient.
We do better without him.
Honestly, we kind of
It's time to start pushing him out of the project.
Yeah, Mitchell, you are off of the pod.
He's downgraded to guest host.
Yeah, well, we might have you on like once a month. We'll be in
If you
touch.
earn it,
All right.
you'll hear from our people.
That is it for episode 34. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hit the outro music.